on, everyone? So the Philadelphia 76ers are playing really good basketball right now. Now, they just came off of a win against the Boston Celtics, who they were cruising, right? Boston is currently on a 2-game losing streak, but they look very comfortable for a team that has been newly constructed, right? With Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and I really thought Philly got a big win by beating the Boston Celtics. You know, they lose their first game of the season. It's like, and that was a game that they should have won. In my opinion, that was a game that they lost rather than got beat. They were in control even late in that game and just fell apart. And they ended up losing that. And since then, they haven't lost. They're on a 6-game winning streak, and they're 6-1 on the season. And they look like a potential threat in the Eastern Conference, right? I still think the Boston Celtics are the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think that the Milwaukee Bucks, as they kind of figure their stuff out, I think will be in that conversation as well. But Philadelphia, I wouldn't be shocked if they come out of the Eastern Conference and end up, by the time the season is over, being the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, what I mean by this is I think they, one, got better by subtraction, right? Getting off of James Harden. We've seen the Clippers already start to struggle with James Harden. Now, granted, it's 2 games for the Clippers and James Harden, but I don't really think that experiment's going to work. I don't know why the Clippers decided to go after James Harden, other than they're getting a new arena next year, and Steve Ballmer probably wants the headlines and attention and the star power. That is probably a real reason to it. And not just that, everyone is a free agent, so it's like after this year, so it's like, okay, well, let's gamble a little bit. If it works, maybe we win a championship. If it doesn't work, then we could just let everyone go and start over. I just don't see that happening with a brand new arena. The Clippers starting to rebuild. But as far as the Sixers go, I think the loss of James Harden was huge for them. It kind of allowed Tyrese Maxey to kind of now step into that secondary role. There's no questions of the sort of pecking order, right? You got Joel Embiid is clearly the number 1 option. Tyrese Maxey is number 2, and then down the line it goes. And also, the biggest reason why I think the Sixers have the potential to be the best team in the Eastern Conference, besides the fact that they've been really good already. Like, they look like they could end up being the best team in the league, or in the Eastern Conference at least right now. But they also, in that Harden trade, got a ton of depth and versatility. It's one of the reasons why, if you've been subscribed to this channel, which if you're not, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications, and don't forget to like this video. But I talked about this heavily during the James Harden Sixer saga, where I was like, hey, they need to just trade James Harden because they'll probably be better without him, because now everybody gets to step up and play, and they're going to get a bunch of pieces that are going to come in, and they're going to want to play rather than going through this just toxicity that is James Harden and him sabotaging games and him not wanting to show up to play the game that he needs to play. When now you go and you get a, Marcus Morris, and you go get a Nicholas Batum, and you go get a Robert Covington, right? You get those guys who, yeah, they're not like these stars or anything like that, but they are sizable guys that add depth, that actually want to play and are going to show up and give 110% and give energy. And you don't have to rely on them heavily because they're not stars, but maybe you could get the same production through committee, which is what is happening here, right? And on top of that, they already had their other depth. And then you see guys, Tobias Harris, he gets to kind of step into that role. Kelly Oubre has been really good for the Sixers this year. He's been giving them 20 points. And they're, the only team in the league with 4 20-point scorers? So my thought process of like, hey, just unload James Harden. I know you don't want to swallow that and lose him for basically 3 role players. I get that, but the reality is your priority is to keep Joel Embiid happy. And the best way to keep him happy is to get a bunch of players that actually want to play, that are going to compete on both sides of the basketball, and maybe help you win some games here. Now, I didn't think they'd be the number one seed in the East so quickly and 6-1, but it's not surprising, right? I'm not like super surprised because they were good without James Harden. I figured that they would be good with James Harden. Now, the question boils down to, can Tyrese Maxey continue the performance in which he has provided thus far this season? Right now, Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are the top duo scoring-wise in the league. Literally, more than Luka and Kyrie, Brown and Tatum, right? Like, Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are the current best scoring duo in the league. But there's that balance, right? There's that big, little, and also an understanding of the pecking order, right? Tyrese Maxey has looked at it as like, hey, this is Joel's team. I'm sort of just happy to be here and kind of get that opportunity. And he's living up to it. He's averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists throughout these games thus far. And that's fantastic. And he's a guy that really can only continue to improve and get better. I mean, he's extremely young still. He's 23? So, and it's his, third year? So they got a real gem in Tyrese Maxey. But beyond that, and the reason why I really believe the Sixers could end up just kind of creating that separation is now they have a ton of expiring salary, right? And Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, and Nicholas Batum, but you also have that big Tobias Harris contract. So with those contracts, as well as the draft picks that they have, they can go and get another star, or even if they don't get another star, they can easily go get some maybe higher blue chip level players, right? Like if a team like Chicago decides to finally tear it down like they should, right? Can they go get a Zach LaVine? That would be great, right? Even if they can't get Zach LaVine, can they get some other parts, some other pieces, right? Maybe you could turn one of these expiring contracts in like a Covington or something like that into like an Alex Caruso and something, right? Where he's just an upgrade and he's just going to provide like some defense and stuff, right? Like, or some of these teams that are projected to be good that end up falling to the wayside a little bit as we progress through the season, right? Like a team like the Nets. Can you go and scrounge some of their wing depth, right? Or, the Raptors or Orlando or, and just, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a star. Like if they can, great, right? If they can go get, like if the Cavs continue to struggle, do they say, hey, we should trade Donovan Mitchell before we end up getting in this position where we don't have the leverage, right? Because next season is Donovan Mitchell's last season, right? Or it can be. He has that player option to where he could opt out. So if they get in the next offseason, well, now it kind of changes because it's like, well, now you have no choice but to trade him. Where if they kind of jump the gun here a little bit and they kind of just at least gauge, like, what could they get? Maybe the Sixers could kind of push their chips to the table, go get like a Donovan Mitchell. And now you have Maxey, Mitchell, and Joel Embiid, and you give up some draft picks, you give up, Tobias Harris's contract. Again, just throwing in an idea. I'm not necessarily saying that that's going to happen or they're going to get any of those guys or anything like that. It's just more so of like they are in a position to where they're already a good team that is going to be one of the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference already. And then if you add in the fact that they can go get another star, or even if it's not another star, kind of upgrade some of the back end players and kind of consolidate into maybe more better high-end rotation guys, especially if Maxey can continue to perform the way that he's performing, then it's like, well, there you go. You have your 2 stars, right? So now it's just rounding out that roster in a way to where now you can compete with any team in the league. And they have a ton of wing depth. They have a ton of size. They have a ton of just depth, period. It may not be the most, just premier depth, but I still think it's good enough, and they have shown that they are good enough, and I think that they're going to be a very good team, right? But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, to me, it's going to come down to Maxey. Can he keep and maintain this? If this is the player that he is, then Philly's going to be very good this year, and they're going to be in that conversation to come out the East. If he kind of regresses a bit at some point, kind of hits that wall, right, and teams kind of figure him out a little more or just kind of put him on the defensive plan better, then if he regresses, then I think Philly may end up being in that trouble, and maybe they do need to push their chips to go get a more star-studded guy. But if Maxey can continue to perform this way, to me, it's like there's a real argument to, instead of going and getting that third star and maybe kind of causing a setback for Maxey, you just go get some like high-end rotation guys, some guys that can come in and just really fill out a role better and have that understanding of what their role is, and maybe give you, upgrade the defense or upgrade spots in which you need upgrade in, and then just kind of ride the season with Maxey and Joel Embiid and see if like, hey, maybe we can come out of the Eastern Conference. I think regardless, I think that there's a real argument to be made that the Sixers, they have the most upside, right? Because the Celtics and the Bucks, they're locked in. Like the team that they have is the team that they have. There's no way that they're going to be able to really have some shake-up type of trade, right? The Sixers can. And so they're already going to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. If it gets to the point where it's like, okay, like we need that shake-up trade, they're the only team of those three that really can. So I just think the upside's higher with the Sixers. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you agree? Do you think like, yeah, Sixers are going to be tough this year? Do you think that they can come out the East? Do you think like, no, they got to get another star before they can be in that conversation? Maxey's too unproven. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below.